Hello, I'm Lois Toyama, President of the Honpa Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii's Federation of Buddhist Women's Associations. For about the past 10 years, our organization has participated in many activities throughout the state which honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This year, the slogan of the Hongwanji is nurturing empathy and respect. Participating in the activities that honored Dr. King are some of the ways that we can bring that slogan to life in our communities. Our spiritual leader, Monshu Kojun Otani, in his 2021 New Year's message, addressed the systematic discrimination against African Americans, social unrest, and division among the public in the United States. He goes on to say that we should live with the understanding of being interconnected and mutually supported by one another. This video is the Federation of Buddhist Women's Association's effort to affirm our interconnectedness and mutual support. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stated, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter.
It really boils down to this, that all life is interrelated. We are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny, and whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly.
For some strange reason, I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be, and you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. We will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood.
Aloha. As we remember Dr. King, we reflect on the events of the past year which have amplified his message of a dynamic peace that actively uplifts the oppressed and marginalized in our society and leaves no one behind. Our way forward is to look back by reflecting on the wisdom shared by Dr. King and how his words continue to resonate with all that we are experiencing today. We are facing a healthcare crisis, an economic crisis, a political crisis, and ultimately a moral crisis. The COVID-19 pandemic has disproportionately affected communities of color. Millions of Americans are unemployed or underemployed, again, a majority of whom are people of color. And the deaths of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor, and countless others are not simply isolated events, but rather a common occurrence for Black and brown people whose lived experience is a system that disregards their lives. A dynamic peace is founded upon the recognition that the world is a lot smaller than we think it is, that our lives are truly interdependent and interconnected in the most profound ways. That what affects one affects us all. In his 1967 Christmas sermon on peace, Dr. King uplifted this basic truth that is at the heart of Buddhist teaching. He said, it really boils down to this, that all life is interrelated. We are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied into a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. We are made to live together because of the interrelated structure of reality. In the days and months after George Floyd was murdered, people of all backgrounds and creeds awoke to our inescapable network of mutuality and courageously met this challenge by building connections, organizing, and voting for change. True peace is not passive. It is dynamic activity in our world. How do we care for one another? What do we do to make our world better? How do we respond in times of crisis? Our personal attempts to live compassionately is never wasted. Choosing to cultivate love rather than anger is the only way to change ourselves, our community, our nation, and our world. True peace requires personal action. The late Georgia Congressman John Lewis believed that freedom is not a state, it is an act. It is not some enchanted garden perched high on a distant plateau where we can finally sit down and rest. Freedom is the continuous action we must all take, and each generation must do its part to create an even more fair, more just society. He lived and acted from an understanding that one's conduct matters, and it is what will determine our collective future. Shakyamuni Buddha taught at length about the radical equality of all people and criticized the arbitrary nature of class and status. He taught that nobility was not a matter of one's birth, but rather a matter of one's actions. The Buddha understood that true peace is cultivated through one's actions and conduct. Wisdom, unfolding as compassion, is dynamic activity which is the catalyst for change, growth, and healing. As we remember Dr. King's timeless message of peace, we must reflect on our responsibility to act from the knowledge that what affects one affects us all. In these difficult times, I commit to listening, to learning, and self-reflecting on my own greed, anger, and selfishness, and I vow to take personal action to cultivate peace. May we continue to nurture the flame of hope and love to bring about real and lasting change. May the light of all-inclusive wisdom and all-embracing compassion illuminate our journey on this difficult path to peace and justice. Let's journey together in solidarity as fellow travelers. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Mahalo.
If you had just one wish, what do you think it would be? If it could be life-changing, a thought you only dreamed. The door once closed now opens. Suddenly you're free to choose your destination. Unlikely as it seems, you'll fly, no boundaries in sight.
gonna make when we fold 1,000 paper cranes.
That's right, the old legend. I'll hang them up.
I'd wish for no more sadness.
Every day a holiday.
Friendships never ending. No families forced apart.
Lots of love and laughter. And it's gonna rain.
Fun that's everlasting.
No more broken hearts. You'll fly, no boundaries in sight. We'll soar, and with all of our might, we will dance, we will sing, and the world would hear the ring from the bell toll. That's all of our words. You'll be the voice they can't hear. They'll see all our pain and our fears. Let us dance, let us sing. We'll write peace on your wings, and you'll fly all over the world.
The world can be hard and cold. You're the light that gives us warmth, the soul that brings us home.
And together